solid state. It's not, you know, zinc coating here, it's not primer here, it's not bare metal here. Now it's all one solid color with the PPG primer on it.
Nice.
It gives us a lot more foundation to build up on.
And who primered this for you?
Jason over at CW's.
The CW did an awesome job with the priming. They treated it 110% professional. They were ready to go with the car the second we dropped the trailer door. You couldn't ask for a better body shop to, you know, to handle your business.
I'm Chris Womack, owner of CW Restoration Shop. A few weeks ago, Mark called me up and asked for a favor. He said we really need somebody to put the car in primer and asked if we could use it our shop. We've done a lot of business with Mark and Classic Industries, so it was a great opportunity to help them out.
So now it's sealed, it's ready to go. We can move forward, start metal work, body work, and all that other fun stuff.
And you're excited about this,
Oh,
right?
I love it, man. It gives you motivation.
Really? Yeah. I look at it and I think, wow, more sanding. So what are we going to do today?
All right, well, come here, I'll show you.
Wow. Okay, this is fake.
Fake. Plastic, yeah.
What we started with today was a foam replica of the motor that we're going to be putting in. And you know, when you're dealing with that, it's a lot easier to manipulate the foam block as opposed to, you know, an 800-pound small block.
First we took the engine and we had the Art Morrison motor mounts, bolted them to the engine. We left the main mounts off it. We just put the aluminum plates on just to kind of help us guide it in with a little bit of adjustability.
They were expecting it, but I was hoping for it.
Yeah, you wouldn't be able to do this with a real engine.
Well, a good air saw and time-lapse photography can make things look easy.
Started to realize that the lip where the floor and the firewall come together was going to be a problem. So we needed to trim that out.
It's not as it was in '56, so the fit is a little bit different. So it's expected.
Let's get this out of the way. Okay, so what are we going to do?
So what I want to do is put a few tack welds on that pinch weld seam.
Okay.
So when we cut it on the bottom side, it doesn't want to separate on us.
Okay.
What I wanted to do first was weld up the seam on the outside before we cut the inside. So welded that up, and then Dan came in and sawed that flange right off, and he actually did a really nice job. It's pretty clean.
Once Dan was done cutting out the pinch weld, we retest fit the engine block, and all of our tolerances, head to firewall tolerances, were good. So I mean, we know what we're going to be dealing with the real deal.
So how is that for you for clearance now?
It's perfect for me.
Excellent.
And then we began at least laying out the Rick's gas tank.
So this is a 22-gallon tank, so it's a little bit bigger than stock.
What would a 56 Bel Air normally come with?
Ooh, I think they're like a 16.
Okay.
And so basically what happens is, with running a bigger tank, you have to get rid of the spare tire well.
Right.
So that's been taken out of this car already, so we can run the bigger tank. And now we need to do a center line on here, center line on the cross member, so we figure out our bracketry.
Okay.
Rick's tank sent us a stainless steel fuel tank. It's got the fuel pump in it. I mean, it's really cool. Sending units all in there. Came with the mounting brackets that work with the Art Morrison frame.
The main thing is you want to get it laid out first. You know, same theory, measure 3 times, cut once. And that's basically what we did today. We got it laid in place. Once the body comes back off, then we'll drill the holes in the brackets for the mounts and finish weld everything.
That little commuter car that you drive every day, it has a gas tank. But a car like this, it has a fuel tank.
This is Chop Cut Rebuild. Presented by Classic Industries, America's first choice in restoration and performance parts.
Well, you guys sure are early risers. You already got it started. Good morning.
So this morning we kind of got an early jump before Dan arrived, and me and Dave kind of outlined how we were going to run the exhaust.
I'm Dave Gerard. I work for Pipes Exhaust. I'm actually their major accounts manager and design product lead for the muscle car line.
So we started with the downpipes coming off the manifold, and we actually had to cut those and modify them because they were for a Camaro, and it worked out perfect. And those were going to go into the catalytic converter. We have to go from 2.5 to a 3-inch exhaust. So using the catalytic converters, we were able to go in at 2.5 and come out with a 3-inch flange and start our 3-inch exhaust system.
2.5 up to 3 inches will punch performance nicely.
So Dan arrived, and we had already had the front down tube already done, and the muffler in position. So when Dan was there, we started to work on the back half, which was past the muffler, up and over the axle, and then out the back.
All right, well, let's get at it. What can I do for you? I got the gloves. Do I need the glasses?
Yes, probably you will.
And you're going to do, I guess, a lot of massaging.
All right. For the 56 Chevy, we brought in basically our builder's line. It's a kit designed for the home builder with a custom chassis like the Art Morrison chassis to fabricate his own system.
Having good tools to help tweak the fit is a big advantage if you try this at home. Otherwise, you may want to simply get it and send it off to more talented hands.
With the muffler in place, we used a center in and an offset out, and that would get us through the Art Morrison chassis cutouts.
All right, I guess we'll progress on back here to the tailpipe.
Okay, so from here, straight through?
Yeah, we're going to run it to probably about, our starting point's going to be about the center here before we start transitioning up over the rear.
Okay, all right.
Dealing with a custom chassis, it's not an out-of-the-box kit. It's a lot of thinking, a lot of planning, and the end results are proof of concept.
Okay, well, that's going to hold it. Now, we treat this all as one big pipe now, right?
That's correct.
So if we need to trim anything, it's going to be trimmed
We're
back
going to
there?
trim that in, right?
Okay.
Right. What we should do, though, is we should put one of these band clamps on the end just to center the pipe in the muffler,
Okay.
just as we did on the front.
The muffler inlet gives you significant range to move the system back and forth. There's close to 2 inches of play allowing you to move the pipe. It won't be as critical on the first side, but it will be when you try to match the look on the other side.
You know, working with Dan today, I was extremely surprised at how good his welding has gotten. And I say that because he's welding stainless. And if you're welding stainless with a MIG welder, it's a little tough. And he actually had some decent welds on there. So I think maybe the welder was at the right setting, but he did pretty good.
You think this is it?
Okay, yeah, we've cut this to length now. It seems to line up pretty well.
So now we're going to sit right under the frame here.
Right close under the frame, yep.
And then there.
That'll be our finished tailpipe.
Very nice.
Okay. We finished it with a set of our Chevelle tips. They look real classy on the back of the car, a nice cowbell design.
Hey, you can always use more cowbell.
Once we completed the passenger side, we were ready to move on and do all it over again on the driver's side, starting with the down tube and then all the way back.
All exhausts go to the back, at least the one I just built did.
Car's going to be awesome. This Art Morrison chassis and the amount of work that's going in by the team here. We're just really happy to be a part of the project.
When GM Performance Parts delivers their LSA motor to Classic Industries, they're going to be able to hook it up to their pipes and smoke it. Morning, guys.
Morning, Dan.
Little things, huh?
Little things, you bet.
Wiper motors?
Wiper motor and steering column.
So this is out of the donor car?
That came out of the donor car.
Wow, that's old.
Yeah, old and crusty.
Yeah. And this is what we're putting in?
Yeah, this is the new Rain Gear electric gear-driven wiper motor.
Pretty
So
cool.
no more cables like the old style.
We're going to do that. You got a new
Yep.
steering column?
Right. What we're doing now is we're installing the parts that we can't change. The wiper motor has to go in a certain spot. The steering column has to go in a certain spot.
Okay.
And once those are mounted, then we can figure out where we're going to mount the heater and the computer brain for the engine and all that. But
Okay.
these we have to go in
You have
first.
to have these set first. Okay,
Right.
so let's put these in.
Okay, sounds good. We started off with the installing the Rain Gear wiper system.
Now the instructions say from Rain Gear, getting started, some recommendations. Please try our way first. They know how to talk to car guys.
Realistically, installing it is simple. You use your main, one of your left-hand main support for the brake pedal assembly. You remove the support and it goes into the mounting location, and then your wiper arm studs feed through the firewall. Add a spacer to just plumb it up a little bit and lock it down with your washers and you're done.
And that's not gonna fall off.
Nope, that's good.
So now we have wipers.
Now we have wipers, and it's just mock-up stage. So obviously when we're done, we'll have the nice chrome bezel and the vent panel will be in there. But for now,
okay.
just mock-up.
All right. So there's still parts of this that have to happen, so we'll hang on to this.
We need to keep those to follow their way. We installed the Flaming River tilt steering column. It's their direct fit for the car. It's designed for the 55 and 56 Chevys.
First thing we did was install the accessories on the steering column, the shift lever, the tilt arm, the blinker switch. And once that was installed, we got the column fitted into the car. The purpose of installing the steering column now is to get an idea on how much steering shaft we're going to need, see if there's any clearance issues to the steering shaft and the exhaust system. You can't do any steering or anything with it because that is a spline-to-spline unit. We're going to send that off to Flaming River and get, the exact length shaft that we need.
Well, that's better. That's 10 and 2, where it should be. So do we need to do some stuff here? We got the selector in that, right?
Not just yet. What we're going to do is put the seat in so we can get a judge of where the column should be.
Okay, all right. Good idea.
The Glide seat's a quick assembly. Out of the box, all we had to do was bolt in the seat backs and the recliner adjusters, and for the most part, bolt the brackets onto the bottom of the seat.
And then you would take this seat with the foam to an upholsterer and have them finish it off.
Right. Either in a factory upholstery kit that Cars Inc. makes for these, or custom kit.
I see. Okay.
The bench seat that we're using right now is a split bench like the original, but it's got bucket backs. They're tapered more, and it also has a center console armrest that we're going to make some things later on. It's just a little more contoured for your body, a little more sporty than the stock bench seat.
All right. So this is pretty comfortable.
With the improved steering capabilities, the team intends to use a 15-inch replica wheel with a moderate offset. Originally in '56, these cars came with an imposing 18-inch diameter wheel.
We installed the Flaming River U-joints to the column end and then also to the Art Morrison rack and pinion. So once we got those onto the column and the rack and pinion, we had to measure for our steering shaft, and at that time I just cut a piece of tubing for now so we can determine how long our shaft should be.
This is when having a foam block mounted in the car really pays off. Ideally, we'd like to have the exhaust manifolds in place, but Craig has a very good idea where they sit, so we're able to stay clear of any obstructions.
All right. So that is the length we need. We just send that off to Flaming River and they'll send us the right length.
They'll give us a spline shaft.
But right now we have a steering car.
Right now we can't because there's no splines on this shaft, so it just spins.
Okay. This close.
This is Chop Cut Rebuild. Presented by Classic Industries, America's first choice in restoration and performance parts. Classic's Bel Air is still a long way from completion, but every step is a step in the right direction.
All right, I brought the only decent part from the donor car.
That we won't be using.
We won't use it. So let's leave that here. And this is all brand new.
Right, this is the Dakota Digital gauge cluster, their VHX series.
Very nice.
And I mean, everything is just compact.
This goes like this, and this is the portion in front of the passenger.
Right. This is the speaker grill,
Okay.
which has a special clock for that. We'll put that in too.
So the clock is over there. It's not part of this cluster.
No. We used Dakota Digital's new VHX series gauges, which is kind of cool because it's got needles, but it's digital. When it lights up at night, it's really cool. And it still has all our indications in the readout. It'll tell us what gear we're in. It'll give us temperature gauge. It'll give us amp gauge. It'll give us oil pressure gauge. All the stuff we need right there in that little cluster.
I have a lot more to put in than you do.
Yeah, I just had two. Installing the Dakota Digital gauge cluster was pretty simple. We just took the new gauge bezel from Classic Industries, bolted it together, and dropped the column a little bit, slid it in, and bolted right in.
This gauge package is an extremely clean unit. Even installed into an aftermarket car, it lines up nicely. Now, keep in mind, this unit isn't a standalone piece. To function, you need to hook it up to a Dakota Digital box that will hide behind the dash later.
Well, you know, when you think about what we did, we've taken real deal steel dash, a Dakota Digital instrument cluster, and a Flaming River column. 3 companies that really don't show each other their product, and it all fits.
It all fits.
Not a bad deal. You were saying that it's important to put the pedals and the steering wheel here as early as possible, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
What's the reason for that?
Well, comfort. You know, you don't want to finish the car and have it all done and find out the pedals you're uncomfortable when you're driving, the seat's not right, the steering column's too close, too far. You know, you don't want to be that way where you can't change it anymore.
And this is the original brake pedal, right?
Correct.
Wow, we're actually going to have a part from the donor car.
Is it just me, or are these guys making me work on my head a lot today?
Almost too easy. Okay. Next.
The brake pedal can only go in one spot. It's factory located, that's where it goes. Locar sent us one of their drive-by-wire gas pedals. So we found the right location, marked it, and drilled a couple holes and mounted it.
A pedal comes with the crate motor we're getting, but it's a fixed position and it's plastic. Locar steps it up by using the GM base with an adjustable billet pedal for more flexibility.
Okay, you happy with that?
Yeah, I think that'll work.
So you've got the brake above the accelerator, right?
Correct.
Okay. So we lock that in. What do we move on to now?
Well, we need to make a bracket to mount the vintage air heater. I think that's the next thing to tackle.
Okay. And then we have to do batteries.
Then we'll mount the batteries.
And we could probably paint by the end of the day.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We chose to use vintage air heating system for this car. It's small, it's compact, and it's going to fit up behind the dash and kind of out of sight for what we were looking for.
Since this car is a convertible in California, you don't need air conditioning. Made a solid mounting bracket for it. You know, we just basically found a nice home port and tried to keep it as far out of the way as everything else.
By opting for a heater-only unit from Vintage Air, the guys are ensuring they'll have plenty of room under the dash. With no top, warm toes are a nice feature.
We wanted to mount both of the batteries on what essentially would be the package tray area if the car was a hardtop or a sedan. So what we did was just cut ourselves a 12.5 by 46 inch piece of, I believe, 16 gauge steel from an industrial metal supply and cleat coated in place just to get it prepped as a final resting place for the batteries to lay.
You know, Dan wasn't bad today. You know, there were some times when we were working on the car that 2 hands were better than 4, but other than that, it wasn't a bad day.
I told the guys we'd get some color on this car before the day was done. I am excited anytime we're going to do shiny stuff.
You are?
And we're going to do shiny stuff?
We got a couple shiny items for you.
This taillight, right? Replacement taillight?
Replacement taillight from Jeans.
Wow. Gene Smith and Burbank.
The Gene Smith taillights are identical to the factory ones, right down to the driver's side filler neck where it opens up and the filler neck's behind it, to the paint lines and the chrome. Everything's identical to the factory taillight.
All right. So there's that shiny stuff. What else are we going to do?
We're going to go ahead and do the trunk hinges, and then also the rear bumper.
So should we start on this?
Yeah, let's start on the taillights first.
What do we need?
Let's go get some Phillips screwdrivers.
Okay.
The taillights were pretty simple to install, so we left that up to Dan and his Phillips screwdriver, and he handled it like a pro.
Anytime something is described as being simple means I can usually accommodate.
Normally there's a rubber seal that goes between the body and the taillight, like a gasket.
Yeah.
But what we're gonna do is when we let all this in, we're gonna extend it and let it so there's no gasket. So it's just a nice clean transition from the body to the taillight.
The Gene Smith reproduction taillights, the installation is fairly simple. You've got your basic keeper clips that slide into the taillight assembly on the car, and basically just a Phillips head screw, thread straight in.
There we go. That was fast, easy, but I'm not cheap.
There are those who know the truth about that statement.
Okay, so this is our hinges from Eddie Motorsports. And these guys are also in Southern California, right?
Yep.
Wow, that's really going to draw your eye. I guess that's the point.
You bet. So we used the Eddie Motorsports trunklet hinges. They're just a solid billet aluminum with a pin, but they run off a gas shock. So a lot better quality, nicer piece.
And there's some hardware in here.
The only thing you really need is the pin. We had Dan tackle the removal of the stock hinge. Basically, it just consists of punching out the main pin.
This step can be pretty quick if you have a rust-free car. If your nuts are rusted, you're going to have trouble.
So you've got that side, I'm going to do this side?
Yep.
Okay. Let me see you do yours first.
Well, if you notice, that one's already got the gas shock on it.
Yeah.
They have to be on. Otherwise, you have to try and feed it on there while it's in the pocket.
Yeah, we don't want to do that.
Putting the EMS hinge right back in place of the other hinge. They have a probably about 80 to 90 pound pressure gas shock on them that takes the place of the original torque rod.
Fashion and function meet perfectly with these hinges. They easily hold the heavy trunk, and they open the area up by removing those ugly rods that crisscross underneath the package tray.
EMS recommended that we mount them to the inner fender well just to be safe we actually made a reinforcement plate for the backing side just so we don't destroy the inner fender well with the compression of the gas shock.
It wasn't meant to ever have a gas shock or anything mounted to that wheel well. So we just decided that having a reinforcement plate in there would fix the problem of any flexing or cracking in that area. After we got the Eddie Motorsports hinges on there, we ended up installing the trunk lid, tightening it down. There is still some adjustment we need to do on it, but for now, for the most part, fits good. The hinges operate smoothly, the trunk goes up and down nice, so I'm pretty happy with it. That's very smooth.
Were you expecting it to go down slower?
No, I was just expecting it to just be a lot harder to shut. But I think you've got this big long plane and you're pushing down equally. It's really smooth.
And much more preferred over the bars.
Right, right. No creaky noises.
Okay, all right. So the next thing we need to do is a bumper.
Yep. We got our bumper back from American Brightworks, stripped of the old chrome, straightened, ready to put on the car. Also, this is a one-piece bumper, and some of the original cars had a three-piece bumper. So California regulated, DOT standards to have a one-piece bumper. So in our favor, it worked out because we want the clean, smooth look without the extra seams.
Yep. There's no bumps in the road, and no junk in the trunk.
This is Chop Cut Rebuild. Presented by Classic Industries, America's first choice in restoration and performance parts. It's a well-documented fact that the best part of my job is the cars I drive. Some wheels deliver more than my skills to the equation.
Hey guys. So I dropped by GM Performance with the forklift today, and look what I found. Yeah. This is the engine you and everybody in the world wants. This is the LSA.
Yes.
And you know how many horsepower?
556.
556 horsepower, supercharged. It's the Cadillac motor, right? And I don't mean that as it's the Cadillac of motors. It actually is a Cadillac motor.
Right, it's out of their CTSV.
Right, and the new Camaro, limited edition, right? So we're basically going to make the 56 run like a scared rabbit.
The engine we're using on our 56 is an LSA. It's called their Connect and Cruise, which is a supercharged 556 horsepower, 6.2 liter. Comes pretty much ready to go.
You're doing work to it? We can't just lift it up and drop it in?
No, unfortunately not. We've got to take the manifolds off and a couple coil packs and a few things here we don't want to damage when the chains pull up from the cherry picker.
Okay, so the engine actually comes with more than you need.
More than we need both.
For this moment.
Right, for this moment, right. Before we were able to put the engine on the engine hoist, we had to first take off the exhaust manifolds. We had to move a few wires out of the way. So once all that was done, we were able to lift it up off the factory pallet it came on and bring in the transmission, bolt that all together.
We brought the transmission in on a forklift because it was a lot easier to just put it on a pallet and bring it up to the level that the engine is already sitting at. It was a 4L85E. I believe it's a 6-speed automatic, and it comes with basically as part of the package. The hardest part sometimes is the engine harness and finding a place to mount the brains. And I mean, realistically, that's it. You can put that motor in any car.
A great feature of these Connect and Cruise packages is eliminating the guesswork of matching the right transmission and engine package.
Once we had the real engine bolted all together, we still had the plastic engine sitting in the car. So went ahead, unbolted that, took it out. Now it was ready to put in our real engine this time.
I think we should at least fake that it's heavy. This is amazing. I mean, the markings are all there.
7, the grid.
Yeah. The sensor housings are in the right place.
Yep.
All perfect for fit. And the engine is just as accurate, I guess.
Right, right. Exactly. The offset of the head. This is flush, and this is set back here, so it's about dead on.
Nice.
We had to remove the Art Morrison engine mounts off the plastic engine, bolt them onto the real engine, and once that was bolted on, we were ready to put the cherry picker in place, start lowering the engine into the car. Nowadays, it's pretty simple to install an LS engine into anything. With the Art Morrison motor mounts, the transmission mount that they provide in their chassis, installing this engine was very simple, very quick, easy, pretty painless.
This package comes complete with control modules, oxygen sensors, a mass airflow meter, a wiring harness with fuse box, and they even include a throttle pedal.
We raised the car up in the air, and Craig took and bolted the torque converter to the flywheel. Then the next thing we did was we put the starter in, ended up putting the bell housing cover on, and that was it.
As a single package, it also means there's no need for third-party tuning. The engine, transmission, and onboard computers are all in sync right out of the box.
Okay, I think I got those stripped. I got a question for you. This, to me, doesn't look right. The cross member is above the oil pan.
Yeah, we're gonna have to do some research and see if there's another GM model that has a shorter oil pan.
Okay.
You know, that way we can clear, you know, be above the cross member, or at least flush like the transmission.
Or skid plate.
No, no skid
No
plates.
skid plate?
It's not off-road. We made some good progress today. Days like these, you know, you make so much progress, your eyes open even wider, because then you realize how much more work you have to do. But in the end result, we're gonna have a really nice car.
Hey guys.
Hey, Dan.
So I brought what is probably the most single important thing to have for a restoration.
Got that right.
The assembly instruction manual. Why is this key to you?
Well, there's a lot of things in this front end that have to go on before other things, so there's a sequence.
Right.
You end up putting everything in, and then you can't get the grill in. So,
So this doesn't just give you the inventory you need, it tells you the sequence you've got to put it in.
Absolutely.
All right, and I see we got a lot of our shiny stuff here.
Yeah, we got the grill support bar, hood bird, headlight.
Nice,
So-
very nice. So a lot of this is OER and Gene Smith.
Right.
Looks beautiful. But we can't put this stuff on until we've got the gray stuff on.
Right. Fenders and core support.
All right, let's do those.
All right.
Working with Dan was definitely its usual interesting experience.
All right, shiny stuff. I like shiny stuff because it makes the car go faster.
It's kind of like teaching somebody all over again. You know, every day is a new learning experience for them.
We started with the Be Cool core support, mounted that to the front of our Morrison chassis. That's kind of our foundation. That's where we have to start before we can build the inner fender wells and the fenders to it.
It's a lot like assembling Swedish furniture at this point, except that we had to buy the assembly instructions, and there's no chance we'll have any hardware left over because we had to buy the hardware too. As long as there's no parts left on the floor, we're in good shape.
After we got the inner fender wells on and the outer fenders on, we were able to install the lower splash pan. Basically, the lower splash pan is